A couple of weeks ago, I made a video on who the deadliest Templar was, and a few months ago, I made one talking about who the smartest assassin of the series is. So in this video, we are going to be talking about who the smartest Templar in Assassin's Creed is. Now keep in mind, for this discussion, I'm only talking about the big Templars, so those who were antagonists, or in Rogue's case, a protagonist of the series. And like always, this is just my opinion, as there is no definitive answer to who the smartest Templar is, as it's left to your own interpretation. So let me know who you think the smartest Templar is and why down in the comments. So I want to start this out by safely ruling out a few I feel are not the smartest Templars for obvious reasons. Robert de Sable. I don't necessarily think he's a dumb character, but it's not like he exactly displays his intelligence much in AC1. He was a pawn in Al-Mualim's game, and he for some reason chose to fight and die by Altair and tell him that he was a pawn when he could have just been like, hey, we have a common enemy, use my army and we'll take him down together. But nah, I guess the way we got it is more dramatic anyway. But yeah, compared to the smartest on this list, I don't think Robert really comes close. Germain to me is also not one of the contenders for smartest Templars, although he clearly has an agenda and plan that clearly takes some intelligence. I mean, not anyone can plan the assassination of a Templar Grand Master and then also convince an assassin to assassinate the next Templar Grand Master, leading to him being appointed and placed in power. He deceived Arnaud and the assassins quite easily and was able to get his hands on the Sword of Eden. With that being said though, that still doesn't quite stack up to those I would consider the smartest of the series. Starrick is a very similar deal. I think all of these antagonists need a degree of intelligence to actually be a threat in these games. Starrick is also able to get his hands on a piece of Eden. Granted, his plan falls apart really quickly thanks to the Fry twins, so I can't imagine a world where Starrick is the smartest Templar. Governor Torres from Black Flag is a very interesting one. He's clearly a very smart guy. Just in the way he acts and talks, he seems educated. He orchestrated a plan years in the making. He was the governor of Havana while also being a Templar Grand Master, and he was able to pull strings and execute plans to find the Sage Roberts and locate the observatory. However, he lets him escape pretty much immediately, but he was also smart enough to realize Edward wasn't Duncan Walpole, as he was pretending to be, even if it was a pretty bad disguise. I think Torres is a very smart Templar, but to me he almost feels like a weaker version of a Rodrigo Borgia, let's say, in terms of making grand plans and discovering the Izu artifacts. Prince Ahmet from AC Revelations also clearly isn't the smartest to me. He is the heir of the Ottoman Empire, so his influence and power is probably the most threatening part about him, and he also secretly leads the Byzantine Templars during Revelations. He doesn't reveal himself until towards the end of the game, and I feel he was beaten pretty easily. Nothing about this guy felt really intimidating or threatening to me, and in terms of a series antagonist, he's very forgettable and clearly not the smartest. Charles Lee. To me, Charles Lee never really felt like the main threat in AC3. It was always Haytham for me. But Charles at the very least is a smart antagonist, and he spent years serving and learning from Haytham himself, where he learned how the Templars operate, how and what they do, and why they do it, which eventually led to him inheriting the leadership position. But in my eyes, he's definitely not even as smart as Haytham, so there's no way he could be the smartest Templar. Cesare Borgia was always more a threat physically than mentally. He had fighting skills close to on par with Ezio, and he had a massive army at his command to do whatever he wanted, and he even killed his father, the Pope, our previous antagonist, Rodrigo Borgia. He's a powerful Templar, but smart isn't how I would describe him. Unlike Rodrigo, he had no care for grand plans or pulling strings from the shadows, or even trying to quote-unquote save the world. He just straight up wanted to rule it by any means possible, whether it's with his massive armies or the Apple of Eden. A powerful Templar for sure, but not the smartest. Haytham Kenway is an extremely smart Templar and certainly a contender in this discussion. I think not only his views and perspective on the conflicts, not only with the Assassins and Templars or the American Revolution, but also for just the world in general, come from a place of high intelligence. The amount of times Haytham made Connor look like an idiot whenever he tried to argue about why the Assassins are right and the Templars are wrong. He's clearly put tons of time and thought into his views and why he fights. But he's also very street smart and experienced, used, often being able to talk or, if necessary, fight through situations to get what he wants. I think Haytham's one of the most skilled Templars in this series, and his only weakness is Connor. If Connor wasn't his son, who knows how AC3 and the rest of the games from there on would have turned out. So when it came to Connor, he didn't always think as rationally as he normally would, and that's because he cared for Connor even if he tried not to admit it. He came to colonial America and essentially built his own Templar order from the ground up and recruited members and placed them in influential points within the society. He's smart in every sense of the word. Shay Cormac, the only Templar protagonist of the series, has an interesting case. I mean, first of all, I don't think any Templar has destroyed the Assassins as well or as thoroughly as Shay Cormac. He completely dismantled Achilles and the Brotherhood in colonial America, and he even made a trip to Paris at a fairly old age and assassinated Arno's father, Charles Dorian. In terms of strength and deadliness, he's certainly a scary guy to go up against. As for intelligence, I'm not exactly sure. Not to say that he isn't smart, he very obviously is, but that's not necessarily what I think about when talking about Shay Cormac. Like, if we're even just comparing him to Haytham, I don't think he's quite as smart as Haytham. As for Rodrigo Borgia, he also has a very good case. Of all the antagonists we've had in the Assassin's Creed series, Rodrigo Borgia from AC2 has always stood out in my mind. In Brotherhood, he kind of backs off and focuses more on being the Pope, but in AC2, this man was impossible to stop for a long time. 23 years to be exact, and he was already leading the Templars before that as well. It took Ezio 23 years to finally stop this guy, which speaks volume to Rodrigo's intelligence, as Ezio was also one of the smartest assassins. He evaded Ezio for years on end while executing his long, grand plan to get his hands on whatever was in the Izu vault. He was a master manipulator, pulling strings from the shadows and either recruiting or putting his own Templars in places of power across Europe. The man became the Pope. A Templar Grand Master became a Pope. I mean, come on, man. Tell me what other Templar has been able to pull off something like that. He basically made it impossible for the assassins to touch him as the Pope. Granted, Ezio is insanely smart and powerful in his own right, but I still don't think he could have executed a smarter plan. He even got the people on his side. Rodrigo was the ultimate tactician, and he took the longest of any Templar antagonist in these games to finally take down, and he didn't even die until Brotherhood by his own son. And Rodrigo was even influenced and humbled by Ezio, and had a change of heart in regards to the Pieces of Eden and the Assassins and Templars, realizing that he isn't the prophet. This is a very difficult decision, but for me, it comes down to Haytham Kenway and Rodrigo Borgia. Both are very intelligent and powerful Templars. It's so hard to decide, but I think the smartest Templar is, drumroll please, Rodrigo Borgia. I mean, I just explained it, but he was the ultimate tactician, a master manipulator, and no Templar Grand Master evaded the assassins as well and as effectively as Rodrigo did. A lot of people are probably going to say it's Haytham, and I understand that, but to me, it's gotta be Rodrigo. One of the most powerful and influential men in the world of his time, in the game of course, although he was very powerful in real life as well. But anyways, let me know in the comments who you guys think the smartest Templar is and why, and feel free to let me know what category you may want to see next for the Templars. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and considered subscribing to the channel if you're new. I'll also leave links in the description for my videos on who the smartest assassin is and who the deadliest Templar is, so check those out if you'd like. But other than that, thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day, assassins.